In 1981, Brotha Gil Scot Heron released a song called B Movie. And in honor to Brother Heron and to the Midnight Band, I wanted to give an update to the political situation we now face in 2015 and give a bit of a history on how we got here. Control in the U.S. historically has always been achieved through violence and oppression. Hitler himself praised the United States for the efficiency of the genocide of the Native Americans and then used those tactics against the so-called Jews in World War II. The systems of control have many faces: economic failures, endless war, disease, and famine, just to name a few. The thing about B-movies is that they are poorly written. The punchlines are obvious and the actors can't act. So to compensate for a complete lack of imagination, the films are bathed in blood. In 2013, U.S. military expenditures, $640 billion, 2.5 million homeless children in 2013, 500 people are murdered by the police every year, and 22 veterans kill themselves every day. The interconnected social, political, and economic matrix form the pistons and the gears of a cyclical machine which was formed for one reason and one reason alone: control. But not only for the citizenry of the United States, but on a global scale. Welcome to the Great American B-Movie. Walk with me through the genocidal history of the United States. Feel the pain of hundreds of millions of souls systematically snuffed out in the guise of manifest destiny. Feel the warm tears turn to ice on your cheeks as you watch thousands of Cherokee lifeless in the snow. Take the last valiant ride of Tecumseh as he rallied the great tribes of the Midwest, only to meet his demise after being betrayed by the British, with nowhere left to run and no more ammunition to fight. Hear the warriors cry as the U.S. Army lays waste to the last line of defense to the colonies pushed to the west. Run with my ancestor Geronimo, 27 warriors and the remnants of the Cherokee as they fight and flee for over 2 years against 5,000 U.S. troops. Finally succumbing to overwhelming odds and fear of the slaughter of those who remain, he surrendered, only to be paraded like a pet in the north, never to see his homeland in the sacred mountains again.
The U.S. government is producing what it calls the cheapest weapon on a mass scale. The American magazine Look, on July 29, 1952, carried an article entitled, "Must We Fear Germ Warfare?" It reveals that at least 5 U.S. government institutions are fully engaged in artificial cultivation of germs. These are the U.S. Army Chemical Section, the U.S. Public Health Administration, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Army Health Section, and the U.S. Navy Health Section. This article also states that whether for defense or offense, the United States must conduct research and make large-scale preparation for bacteriological warfare. Obviously, what they call defense is only a flimsy pretext. Attack on others. This is the real aim of the U.S. government.
1845, J. Marion Sims experiments on pregnant African slaves without anesthesia. Many die from infection. 1918, the Chemical Warfare Service begins mustard gas testing on 4,000 U.S. servicemen. 1927, 10,000 women forcibly sterilized, legalized by the Supreme Court for the creation of a super race. 1931, U.S. Atomic Energy Commission begins radiation experiments on civilians in Puerto Rico. 1932, the Tuskegee Syphilis Study injects syphilis into 400 black men without their knowledge, then withhold treatment. 1932, founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, outlines her plan for genocide against African descendants and Native Americans in her book, Plan for Peace. quote, give certain dysgenic groups in our society a choice, segregate or sterilization. 1944, the Manhattan Project injects U.S. soldiers with plutonium. 1945, the CIA Project Paperclip pardons Nazi and Unit 731 biological warfare scientists so they can continue their work in the U.S. 1945, Project F studies the adverse effects of fluoride on the human body. 1946, General Douglas MacArthur strikes a secret deal with Unit 731 Dr. Shiro Ishii to turn over 10,000 pages on human experimentation for a full pardon. 1946, researchers get the green light to begin experimentations on soldiers in VA hospitals. 1947, the CIA begins to study the uses of LSD as a weapon. This study will evolve into the MK Ultra program in 1953. 1945, the first atom bombs are unleashed on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. 1950, the U.S. Army releases a chemical cloud over 6 U.S. and Canadian cities. Now let us fast forward to the present. After hundreds of studies and human experimentation on the effects of radiation, the United States, Israel, and England have devised a clever way to avoid biological weapons treaties and dispose of nuclear waste at the same time. Depleted uranium ammunition. So much DU ammunition has been fired in Iraq, asserts nuclear authority Dr. Laurent Murray. Quote, the genetic future of the Iraqi people is destroyed. She continues to say that more than 10 times the amount of radiation released during nuclear weapons atmospheric testing has been released from depleted uranium since 1991. Is the Ebola outbreak another biological weapons experiment? There is mounting evidence pointing in that direction. But first, let us go back to the H1N1 scare in 2009. Prior to the outbreak in 2005, the CDC published an article that it had recreated the Spanish flu of 1918, which was also classified as H1N1. When the outbreak occurred, a few strange things happened, like H1N1 having many of the same genetic markers as the 1918 flu. And once again, the CDC owning a patent on H1N1 years before the outbreak. Patent number 8124101. As the media scare continued, 4 vaccine manufacturers got the green light to fast-track the vaccine. As a result, many people all over the world began to report adverse reactions to the vaccine. But the companies make billions. Now look at the current Ebola scare. The CDC owned the patent on Ebola 4 years ago in 2010. Major media pushed to fast-track the vaccine, contract awarded to Johnson & Johnson. Lastly, Ebola outbreak coincided with UN vaccine campaigns.